Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Katelyn, and today we are continuing our Inktober episodes with day 20 and 21. So today's topic is brought to us by Taha Mirza. I probably butchered your name, so I'm sorry. They ask, I have a question which I wanted you to discuss and give your opinion on. It's kind of related to Inktober and people trying traditional media ink stuff. So the topic is people trying a new media and giving up immediately or disliking it even though they just started and haven't tried to learn anything and thinking they will never be good at this and just stay to one medium. Sorry if I butchered saying your question. My brain was going everywhere, but I totally get what you mean. Basically, it's the feeling of when you start a new medium and you don't get it right away or you struggle with it, kind of giving up and like just saying, nope, this medium's not meant for me, whatever, screw it. Totally get that. When I was in college, that was actually a really big problem for me because going through a drawing major at the university level, you're forced to try a lot of different mediums. You have to sign up for different classes to fulfill your, class requirements, and some of those might not be what you want. For example, since I was a main drawing major, I always, every semester, had a drawing class and a life drawing class. But I was also required to try new things like electives. So I remember I had a watercolor class, I had a book binding class, trying to think what else. I had color class, lots of other things. And within those, and then like foam sculpture, clay sculpture, lots of different mediums that you were forced to try and do in classes. And one of the ones I struggled with the most was actually watercolor. I was really not fond of watercolor. I'm starting to warm up to it a bit more again, but it's still not my strong suit. I've never really got a great hang of it, but I've always kind of been turned off to it. And that's a hard thing to get over, because if you don't really see success right away in a lot of things you do or in anything you do, you tend to give up to move on to something that you could be more successful at. It's just something that happens. So my advice for if you're kind of getting stuck in this, there's a couple things you can do. For one, maybe take a break from it. If you've been trying really hard, practicing, but you're not really feeling it, sometimes it helps to actually step away from it for a bit and not do anything with it. I don't know how it helps, but even with like drawing for me, if I've been drawing nonstop, but all of a sudden all my drawings are turning out like crap and I hate how they're looking, stepping back and taking a break from that particular medium sometimes is a bit of a refresher. So then when you come back, it feels like something new and exciting. Because if you practice it over and over and over, but you're not really seeing it and you're feeling a bit burnt out from doing it, taking the step back and like letting it be can help a lot. The second thing I would recommend is kind of like looking up tutorials or finding ways to learn more about the medium, because doing a self-taught method can help and, can help you learn a lot of different things. But honestly, it might even be detrimental because it's kind of like the blind leading the blind. You don't know anything about that medium or that the tools you're using. But if you have a trained professional who knows what they're doing or knows the medium inside and out, it can really help streamline your practice. So instead of you just kind of doing random practice and trial and error, you can start learning a lot quicker. So then you're like, this is how this works, this is how this works. So then you can just start doing the correct way of using the medium or the tools. One example I have is I was not very good at Copics and markers. I just didn't have the technique right, and it was looking streaky and gross, and I was having weird bleeding issues. And I have a really good friend of mine who is actually like a Copic trained professional. She knows how to use Copic. She did classes for it, the whole thing, and I had her sit down and teach me how to do it. And instead of me kind of spinning my wheels and trying to figure out what I was doing wrong, she quickly showed me, it's like, oh, okay, you should be coloring this way instead of this way. This is why you're getting streaks, but if you do it this way, you shouldn't get streaks. Little things like that help the medium be a little bit more attainable, and it doesn't feel as intimidating, especially if someone can just sit you down and be like, here's how I use it. This should be able to help you. And with that, feel free to look up online tutorials. There is a plethora of online tutorials now. When I was younger, the internet was still pretty new, so we didn't have a lot of things like a lot of YouTube tutorials and different quick tutorials you could look up on DeviantArt, but now is like the perfect time because there's a lot of well-established artists that are sharing their tutorials and sharing what they do step by step online. A couple great platforms I know of are on Instagram. I just like watching the quick speed paints or cuts of people using Copics or watercolors or whatever I need to get better at. Watching their technique and watching them do it, I kind of figure out, oh, so if I want to do this type of shading in watercolor, why don't I try red or blue instead of just the same color again? Little things like that kind of help build up your bank and kind of help you learn the medium a little bit faster. Another piece of advice is make sure that you have the correct tools for your medium because this can make or break the use of that medium. For example, one thing I'm struggling with here for this Inktober is I don't have very good paper for ink washes or watercolors. Honestly, what I've been using, and I've been doing it incorrectly, I know I have, so you guys can call me out on it. I've been using my Copic blending card for doing these Inktobers, and I know that's not the right paper. I ordered some watercolor paper, but I hated how it felt and looked, and I did some practices on it, but it didn't look right. So I haven't really been able to go back and purchase new watercolor paper because, you know, it's expensive. Art tools add up. So I was like, just for this Inktober, I'm gonna stick with this. I know it's tough, but I'm just gonna stick it through and try to make sure that I make them the best I can, even if it's not on the right paper. But because of that, it's kind of making my pieces suffer a bit because the ink washes aren't looking right, or they're getting kind of this weird blotchy effect, or there's so many things that are happening just because I'm using the wrong tools. So if you make sure you have the right tools for the medium you're using, it will help make the process a lot easier and it will help you learn it a lot quicker. Like if you're doing acrylics, make sure you have a pretty decent canvas or whatever you're painting on. Make sure that you have good acrylic paint. Make sure you have good brushes for acrylic. Same with watercolor. Every single paint medium has a different type of brush you can use and different types of paint. Along with, you should do some research on what paper to use, maybe what type fits you best. For example, watercolor has cold press and hot press paper, and each of them have a different texture and feel and take the color and pigment differently. So maybe get a small piece of each, try it out, see which one you like best, and go from there. And if you need recommendations, I would highly recommend maybe reaching out to some artists that you really like their work and seeing what they use. I've been looking into doing a couple of different types of works and pieces, but I have no clue what tools to use. So I've been reaching out to some Instagram artists that I follow and being like, hey, you know, I love this piece you do. What type of paper do you use? Because I'd love to try to do something with the same tools. And typically they're pretty open to getting back to you and letting you know what they're using. I mean, even for my Inktobers, at the beginning of every video, I list all the tools I use in case you guys ever want to try them. Just doing some research and seeing what tools you can use and asking other artists can really help you learn the medium faster and more effectively. And finally, I guess my last little bit of advice is look if there's any classes in your area for using this tool. I know I told you guys to find tutorials or training, but even more so, there's usually some type of community class or something you can sign up for maybe just like 1 or 2 evenings to try it out. And sometimes they even provide you the tools. Like you might not have to buy all your expensive acrylics or watercolors. They might just have like a test pack available in the class. Like you probably will have to pay to sign up for the class and that might include the tools, but hey, look, you get a lecture and tools, so you are all set. So check if any of your local art stores or universities or community colleges or anything around you has some type of art classes or programs for the different mediums you want to try. And just try maybe 1 or 2 classes, see if you even like the medium, see how it works for you, and don't feel discouraged if a medium doesn't feel right to you. There's a lot of different mediums out there, and you don't have to know all of them. Just pick the ones you like, try them out, and see if you like them, and see if you like to work with them. So I hope this helped you guys. I know new mediums are a little bit scary, but just see what tools work for you, practice it, try it out, and see if you even like it. So if you guys have any other things you want me to talk about during Inktober, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. But thanks again, guys, for stopping by, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, everybody.